Come make a spinning fiber advent with me. Hi, I'm Sam and welcome to the Shoogly Stitch. This episode is going to be all about me making a spinning fiber advent for myself. So come along on the journey with me and see how I get on with creating my own fiber blends and blending them up and packaging them up so that I have them ready for the month of December. Today's an exciting mail day! It's always good when you see a World of Wool box in the mail, and so today I'm gonna talk a little bit about what I have. Let's take a look at what's in here. So I'm sure, like many of you, I've been seeing a lot of kind of Advent stuff going on over the past year. I have got scrappy Advents before in the past. I've never actually splashed out for like a full Advent calendar of hand-dyed yarn. But what has been appealing to me lately is the Advent calendars of spinning fiber, just because I think it's kind of a fun idea to try something new out every day, and perhaps things that I wouldn't try myself. However, I don't really need to buy tons more. Granted, I have bought some supplies, but I'm actually going to make my own Advent spinning fiber Advent calendar. And what I've done in the background here, you can see that kind of white bat sitting back there, and that is a bat of Shetland wool that I've hand processed from a fleece. Plain white Shetland, plain cream isn't really my color as far as fiber goes, so I've been thinking for a while about getting some recycled sari fiber, sari silk, and I've seen other people use this. I've seen it kind of blended in, and I thought it'd be really fun to try blending my own sari silk bats, mini bats, for my own Advent calendar. So I'm going to talk you through what I've ordered and then my plans. I decided to go for a 12 or 13 day Advent rather than having to spin every single day. I thought every other day would probably be doable, and I'm planning to do 20-gram bats. So I will probably prepare slightly over that just to account for any wastage on the drum carder, and then I'll have 20-gram mini bats to spin up every day. I haven't 100% decided what the end result is going to be. However, I do have this project that I started for using some of my scraps of sock yarn and other fingering weight yarn. So this might be a nice idea, so I might spin fingering weight, but we'll see once we get finished. But what this video is going to be about today is just actually making up the bats. So first off, let me show you what I ordered. Most of it is sari silk. So this here, that is actually a mixed bag of botany laps is what they call it, which is basically almost a waste product. For World of Wool, for sari silk specifically, I think it's colors that don't kind of fit into their standard color range, but you can also get kind of botany waste of their other wool, and they'll just send you kind of a mix of like the ends of runs of when they've finished spinning a section and there maybe isn't enough or it's kind of poor quality. They'll send you a bunch of that for a reduced cost, which can be fun for making art bats and different things as well. So I ordered one bag of that, which is 100 grams. I'll have to open it up and see what kind of colors are in there and if they overlap with anything else I ordered. I also ordered the luxury collection just as a cost-effective way to be able to try out some fibers for blending. My plan is to blend all of these 50-50, so this little bag here has 50 grams total and 10 grams each of Surrey alpaca, de-haired baby camel, cream de-haired cashmere, gray de-haired yak, and 10 grams of mulberry silk. So you can see them in the bag there. So a 50-50 mix of all of those luxury fibers with the Shetland should prove quite interesting. And as well as knitting up or crocheting the final resulting yarn, I intend to keep some of it as well as like a sample, so I know, so I can refer back to it in the future. So if I'm thinking about creating a yarn for a particular project or a sweater or something, I have a reference point to start with if I'm thinking about creating some new blends. So this is kind of the most variety as far as types of fiber. And then the rest is different colors of sari silk because I can't resist the colors. So we have what they're calling carousel. It's kind of this gold. You'll find that all of these have a lot of other colors mixed in for the most part, but tend to have one base color. We have Royal Robe, which is purple-y-ish. And I will take these out of the pack. We have Moon River. This is definitely my favorite. It's this deep cobalt blue. This is actually the least colorful sari silk, and it's called Yeti. It's kind of a sand color, but I think this will blend really nicely with the color of the wool as well. So it should make a kind of luxurious, natural colored wool. We have Carnival, which I would say is a green base. We have a Salsa, which is a reddish, pinkish base. And last but not least, we have Firework, which definitely leans more on the pink side. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to start prepping my sections, my amounts of quantities of fiber for blending. As I said, there's a bat there that's already been processed for the Shetland, so I'm not working from the actual locks of Shetland fleece just because I want this to blend smoothly. So that's already been through the drum carder probably twice. And then I'm going to measure out 10 grams of each, the Shetland and the sari silk, and see how I get on and start putting it through the drum carder. I'll probably do 2 colors or 2 fibers at once just because I do have quite a wide drum carder, so I can do one small section on one side and one section on the other and still keep enough separation between the two. So let's get started. So what I'm doing here is taking sections of the fleece bit by bit and putting it on the drum carder. What you want to have is the fleece really quite fluffed out so that it isn't taking too much of the fiber at any one time. And then you'll see that I'm also adding the silk on as well. So I just alternate adding sections of fleece and sections of silk on the first pass in order to hopefully get it blended throughout the bat. Because this is 50% wool and 50% silk, it does look like there's quite a lot of silk going in. It seems like the density of the silk is quite high, so it feels like a lot of silk for 50 grams compared to the wool for 50 grams. Now I'm pulling it off the drum carder, so you just kind of break the bat down that line, and then you can peel the whole thing off. Perhaps with the colored one I'll be able to tell if this is a good amount or if I should go a bit less on the silk and more on the wool, but we'll see. Okay, on this one you can really see more of the proportion of silk to wool. I like the look of it. no idea if I'm gonna like spinning it. I think in the long run, this is something that's gonna need more experimentation, but it needs at least one more blend anyways. So let's go ahead and do that. On this part, I'm then pulling off sections of both of the two small bats. Just again, a section at a time and putting it back through the drum carder just to blend it further. And then you could do this as many times as you wanted. I decided to only go for 2 times on this bat. But yeah, obviously the more times you pass it through, the better blended it will be. It's definitely going to make a very tweedy yarn. I'm not sure if I want to run it through one more time or not. Let's take off the colored one to help me decide. So this to me actually does look fairly blended. I suppose there's a few kind of white pieces in there. It could go through one more time. I might leave this one on 2 passes, and then for a future one I might give it 3, and then I can kind of compare the two. I may actually want to sample these before I make a whole advent calendar, but let's see. I don't know, I think that looks nice. I mean, it's definitely tweedy, but I knew that would be the case. Yeah, really happy with that so far. So this is me sampling the first 50/50 bat. I was spinning it mostly long draw, although you can't actually see that in this picture. You can see that it's quite tweedy. And then for the first sample, I wound it all off onto my hand, which was actually quite a bad decision. So I could Andy and ply it, which is just a way that you can work from both the ends of the single. Now you see the 2 ends of the single are coming off my hand. It usually works better if you have a smaller amount, or perhaps you're just finishing up what's left on a bobbin. You can just wind it off onto your wrist. For the other samples, I did just wind them off into a center pull ball and then ply from either end of a center pull ball. This is my little miniature nitty naughty, which is the thing you can make the skein on that I picked up from the Woolly Good Gathering earlier this year. Okay, so I have actually been sampling some of the blends that I created. So first off, this is the 50/50 Sari Silk and Shetland bat. I started out by weighing out 50/50 of all the colors, and then so like 10 grams of the Sari Silk and 10 grams of the Shetland, and portioning that out, thinking I would portion it all out ahead of time, and then I would blend them up, and then I would create my like advent mini bats. However, once I did my first bats, I did this one and I did this one, which you can't really tell as well because it's the neutral, but you can see that there's some texture in there. So when I did these two, I realized that actually it looked like quite a lot of like a high proportion of Sari Silk. So I decided before I continued on with the rest of them, I better sample what I already had. So I stopped blending and I did go off and sample, and here is the first little mini skein that I have. Now this is, and I'll put it up against the bat as well. So this is not bad. I don't hate it. And I think looking at it in the skein form, it looks all right. However, I do feel that it wasn't the most pleasant spinning experience. It is quite textured, and I think once I start knitting with it, I might not love the result. I wasn't looking for something that was quite as textured as this, and I kind of felt like I was fighting the spin a little bit. Here is a little bit better of a perspective. So it's not the most consistent just because Sari silk is such a textured fiber. Here you can see the Sari silk. And it is really very, very textured because it's a recycled product. So then I decided to stop and blend up a few more samples with different proportions. This one only has 10% Sari silk, and I'm sure you can tell that it's significantly lighter compared to the 50%. So 50% and 10%. And then this one is about 20%. So 20% and 10%. So I still have yet to sample these. They do, just by looking at them, you can see they look a lot more kind of wool dominant versus the 50-50. It feels even more than 50-50. It feels like the Sari silk is just really, really dominant in it. Whereas these, especially this only 10% one, definitely feels like mostly wool with just a bit of Sari silk mixed in. So I need to go sample those, and then once I have those little skeins, I should be better able to decide what I actually want to do for my advent. I do need to get it done quickly, relatively quickly. I have 2 weeks until Christmas is here. Today's the 15th. So I'm hopefully going to sample these up this afternoon, and then that'll help me decide what to do with the rest of the colors. I did have to process up a little bit more of the Shetland, so that's all I've got here. This is, I think, about 65 grams of Shetland, and so that was just a case of picking more of the locks and processing them, blending a vat. So I should have plenty still to have a good base quantity, but that does mean I'll have like the Sari silk that I ordered is gonna last even longer than expected. So all very exciting. And then here is the 20% Sari silk, 80% wool blend, wound off into a center pole ball, and then plied. I didn't actually video myself spinning it. And then same again for the 10% Sari silk and the 90% wool, the single and plied. Alright, so after having done the sampling, this is what I've ended up with. So I have 3 sample skeins. One of them is a 50-50 blend, which is the one I already showed you. One of them is 25% Sari silk and 75% Shetland wool, and that's here. And then one of them is 10% Sari silk and 90% Shetland wool, and that's here. And as I hold them up again, you can see the difference in color, and there's a bit of a gradient. And there's also a difference in drape. So you can see this is quite a floppy skein. This one a little bit less so. And this one, it's there's a little bit of a bigger skein, but it's definitely a more, the wool is having a stronger influence on it. Same if I show you the lengths of them, you'll see how much the wool one, pure wool, has sprung up versus the 50-50 Sari silk. Now I haven't actually finished these two. I haven't washed these ones. So they may relax a little bit, and that's also why there's so much active twist still. But even so, wound on the same nitty knotty, it does look like the one with the higher percentage of silk has a bit more drape to it, which would be to be expected. I've decided that I like somewhere in between these two the best. And so what I'm going to go for, because this is just a little bit too pale for me, I really wanted a bit more color than you can see in this light pink. But this was a fairly good spinning experience. This was fine. I wasn't that focused on it. It was an adequate spinning experience. So I'm going to go for somewhere in between and go for about 15% Sari silk. And I hope that that kind of gives me the balance that I'm looking for. Just because I do want that color to be a little bit more dominant than it is in this example. So that is what I'm going to get up to next. I've also decided that for the blends with the luxury fibers, I'm going to go for about a 75% 25% blend. So originally I had thought I would do 10 grams of each and create 50% Shetland wool and 50% luxury fiber 20-gram bats. However, now I'm going to go for more of a 10-gram bat size, just because I think it's a little bit more manageable size. It's about the amount that I want, and I'm going to go for 25% of the luxury fiber and 75% of the Shetland wool. So that is my plan in that respect as well. So originally when I was starting to measure all these out, I put them into 50-50 bags, so 50% silk and wool by weight. However, I've done some sampling and I've decided that 50% is way too high of a percentage. So I will be redoing this. I also had originally measured out 20 grams and I don't really want to be doing 20 grams every single day. So what I'm actually going to do is measure out about 10 grams total, which is 1.5 grams of silk and 8.5 grams of wool. I'm going for 15% silk, 85% wool blend based on the sampling that I've done. So that's what I'm going to do now. Here I am weighing out the luxury fibers as well as the wool. As a reminder, I decided to go for 25% luxury fiber and 75% wool for these blends. So that includes baby alpaca, cashmere, yak, camel, and silk. This process is much the same as doing the sari silk blending, but just with the luxury fibers. So alternating putting wool on there and then the different fiber. In this case, I did yak and silk to begin with. And I'll not bore you with the rest of the blending because it is all pretty much the same. But just imagine I've done the same thing with the rest of the blends as well. In this clip you can see the different blends all together. So we have first up we have the alpaca and wool, and that's the top one in the bag there. They all look quite similar, to be honest, but they'll spin up differently. Secondly, we have the baby camel, which has more of that kind of brown tone coming through. Third is the cashmere, and this was lovely and soft and squishy. Fourth is the baby yak, and again that's more gray. And then lastly there's the alpaca. The next step was just to package everything up, so I have these little envelopes, not particularly Christmassy but nice patterned anyways, and so I've just rolled each bat up and put it in an envelope, and then I've sealed them all with stickers. I didn't put numbers on them or anything, but I've just decided to seal them all up, and then I have them all in a basket and I'll grab them out randomly throughout the month. Alright, so here are all the bats that I have made up that are the Sari Silk ones, and I still have to package up the luxury blends, but this is good enough for now. They're just going to look exactly the same. So my intention is, these don't have numbers, but I don't really remember what colors I put into each little parcel. So my intention is that I just open one of these every other day for the month of December, and I spin it up. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to ply it on the same day or save that all for the end. Something to be decided, but I think that this is about 10 to 11 grams of each little bat, so that's a perfect amount for me to spend up through the rest of December. I'm hoping to put up a few little videos, probably about on a weekly basis, so if you guys have any things you'd particularly like to see from me, I would love to hear some ideas. If you have any questions for me, I would also love some questions. I think a Q&A episode could be quite fun as we're getting into the holiday season, so do pop some comments down below or message me over on Instagram and I'll see what we come up with. And otherwise, you may just end up hearing a little bit of a ramble about what I've been working on, my different spinning activities, just my general thoughts while I'm spinning. Who knows, we'll see. It won't be a vlog, however, because I just do not have the capacity to be videoing different bits of my day. But it will be definitely spinning and or knitting related, so please come along and join in throughout the rest of the month. Thanks for watching this, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye!